Well, hi again. This is Mike Siver for the Mike Siver Show, and we're talking about a book that I've written that's seems to be taking off a little bit. It's called Why Did I Do That? And they talked about it last week on the show when Ernest was on it, and he's here with me today as my guest again. But so many times as we're growing up, people will ask us when you do something, why did you do that? Or you'll ask yourself, why did I do that? It just cost me so much. Why did I do that? Where'd that come from?
Right.
So I've written a book on that. Why did I do that? And last week and this week we're talking about the sponge. And when babies are born, how I start this chapter off, this is chapter 2 in the book. Babies are like sponges. They're brand new, clean, they're not influenced by anything. They don't have negative thoughts, positive thoughts, they just exist. And they will absorb whatever atmosphere they're in, like a sponge. You put it in water, and if I remember next week we're going to do a demonstration on that.
Okay.
But the sponge will absorb whatever it's put in. So will a child growing up. And that's the part that a lot of people don't understand. And Ernie's got some stuff that he wants to talk about with what we're doing here on the first quote that we have in the book. Do you remember what you read that last time?
The first quote is right up on the sponge, and it says, "It is easier to build a strong child than to repair a broken man." And the first paragraph says, "We all know children are like sponges. They see and repeat everything they hear, sometimes to our embarrassment. This is nothing most of us have not been around and ever seen once we've been around a child for more than 5 minutes." So, you know, we use a term in another one of Mike's quotes that said, "The greatest power to have as a human being is to make a choice." And then there's another quote here by Mike. It says, live so that when your children and others think of fairness, truth, and caring and integrity, they think of you." And I like that quote. And you know, we talk about, we've opened a different program. You talk about King Baby,
Right.
where the baby gets everything and everything and everything. And I was talking at a different kind of program, and I was saying to someone what we do to kids and how we confuse them. A child is born and he starts talking, goo goo gaga, we encourage him, we encourage him, we encourage him. They start walking, we encourage them, we take pictures of them, we show everybody they walking. Then they get 2 years old and we say, go sit in the corner and be quiet.
Yeah.
So, it's like, and they learn that. They learn that I've been praised for this.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm being punished for, well, they think punishment,
Yeah.
for the same thing.
Well, it's like I talk about in the book in various chapters that when a child is born, and we all know this, I'm not talking about things that we don't know, but what I'm talking about are things that we forget.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't think enough about it when we're raising our children. When you have a child growing up and they learn to communicate by making sounds, and as a parent, you learn to interpret those sounds, whatever they might be. You'll know when they're crying, whether they're hurt, or whether they're wet, or whether they're irritated or cold. You'll know various sounds what they mean. And unless you make a point as they start to grow and they start to talk, and they don't get what they want, it's like a child will do when they're wet or uncomfortable, is they'll scream.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can go in there and touch them and they'll calm down, but if you don't change that diaper, they're going to scream again.
Right.
And they're going to scream louder. And they'll learn that screaming gets me what I want.
Mm-hmm.
All children learn it. All children know it. All parents know that children know it.
Right.
But we don't respond to it. We don't act on it. We think they'll grow out of it, because we did. But we don't remember back, and we stop to think back how much trouble we gave our mom and dad till we grew out of it.
Right.
Well, children learn very soon and very quick that if they make enough noise, they'll get what they want. And that's what I talk about in the book, is for parents to be aware of your child and what you're doing. You're creating the environment that's teaching them, and there's another part of the chapter is called "We Teach People How to Treat Us." Well, you're teaching your child how to treat you by how fast you respond or don't respond to what they want,
Right.
to what they need. And we as parents need to understand that we are creating the sponges. And the other thing we need to understand, I don't know if you talked about it in the chapter last week, but most children know how to act and respond as an adult by the time they're 10 or 12 years old. Now, it doesn't mean they act like an adult. They know how adults respond and act, because they're going to act like a 10 or 12-year-old. But they also learn that when daddy can talk behind his neighbor's back, he's nice to him to his face, but talks behind his back. Children know that by the time they're 9 or 10 years old.
Right, they do. And they practice what they see.
Yeah, and we don't understand when they get older where they got that from. Well, I can tell you almost every time I know where they got it from. They got it from mom and dad. So we are very careful and need to be very careful as parents raising young children to treat them like a sponge. Because as I'm sure you talked about last week, what goes into a child long enough is what is going to come back out.
I agree.
And if that is racism, anger, bigotry, all the negatives that can, in some homes have a lot of negatives, then that's what's going to come back out. We also have a term, well, what also will come back out is if they're treated like one of the quotes says, with respect, and they're treated with honesty and integrity, then that's what's going to come back out.
You know, and I seen that exactly when I was in treatment, Hines, back here in June. The first person I had as a roommate, because there was an empty bed, and he already was there. And I remember going in, young, white guy, kid. I called him kid, he wasn't a kid. He had been in combat. And I remember going in the room, and I was like, okay, man, this is your room. I'm just visiting for now. What kind of little rules you got? You know, what don't you like? Do you like the light on? Blah, blah, blah. But anyway, he said, I respect you and care about everything that you have to say to me. And he said, I'm not going to disrespect you in any way, and we're not going to have any problems. And that was almost word for word. And I said, where did that come from? And he said, my grandmother and my father raised me till I was about 8, and they taught me the right things. Then I got this stepfather, and I was around him till I was 18, till I went in the military. And he said he tried to get me to hate everybody.
Wow.
Black folks, Jews, Mexicans. He was just hateful and bigoted. I believe he was in the Klan or somebody. He was just a hateful, hateful man.
Right.
And he said he tried to make me like that, and it made me exactly the opposite.
Well, that's the trouble when there's so many, and there's a story, I think it's in the book somewhere, about a reporter who was doing some surveys and interviews on twins. And as they grew up, what they became.
Right.
And this one set of twins, and it's documented somewhere on the internet, you can research it and find out about it. But the father was an alcoholic and an addict, and he was in prison or whatever he did.
Right.
He was in jail a lot. So this reporter went and interviewed the brothers, the children of this man. And one was in jail, and one was a successful businessman. I think he, a doctor, lawyer, somebody, but a successful businessman, a banker or something like that. And she asked them, or I forget who the reporter was, but they asked a lot of questions, all the same question to both of them.
Right.
So you see what kind of answers you get. But she asked one question and got the same exact answer from both of them. And she asked, why do you think you became who you are and you ended up where you're at? And they both gave the same exact answer. With a father like mine, what would you expect?
Right.
One followed the flow, one, like you said, went against the
Against the
flow.
flow.
That's why I said in that, one of my quotes in there is, the one thing we've always got, and I'm not quoting it verbatim, is that we have the ability to make a choice.
That was in that chapter.
And when you have the ability to make that choice, you can then decide, am I gonna be like my dad? Or am I gonna be different than my dad?
It says the greatest power we have as a human being is to make a choice.
And I firmly believe that. And like you, I've been in recovery, and my dad was an alcoholic. He was a World War II veteran, and he did not do well when he got out.
Okay.
Like a lot of them didn't,
Right.
some of them did.
Right.
My father didn't do well. Whatever it was, PTSD, before they diagnosed
Right
it,
before they knew what it was.
before they knew what it was, because he was in some serious, he was in the Navy, but he was in some serious onshore
Right, combat.
combat and while at sea as well. So he didn't handle it well. And I don't know why I became like him. It might have been that I was programmed through the childhood sponge, you know, because I think I'm a product of that whole scenario we talk about.
Right.
But I had a choice, and I got to a point in my life where it was costing me more than I earned.
Okay.
Not in money,
Right.
but in life, in my children. I ended up losing my house, my wife, my children, everything else, because I chose to go one way. And by the time I got influenced by the courts and I made a choice to go the other way, it was too late.
As we say in the program, a nudge by the judge.
A nudge by the judge, and I got one, a big one.
Yeah.
But I made that choice to change, and I did after that. But I couldn't take back the past.
Right.
I had already destroyed the relationship I had with my family. That wasn't their fault, it was mine. So I had to move on. And I stumbled and tripped for a while, but we finally sorted it out. But I think going back, it all came from my father. And I should have known the writing on the wall. I wasn't a stupid man growing up. I did my time. I did some good stuff in the service, and I earned some good money after that. But I still couldn't stop the drinking and the drugging. Now, my father never was a drug addict. He was just a full-blown alcoholic, big time. So that's the sponge, how that part of the sponge affected my life. And I've done, since then, I became a counselor and did a lot of stuff with children and families because I thought that's where I needed to be. And working with families, I worked hard on having families understand the impact they're making on their children at the very beginning. And a lot of them never realize, they don't understand. And that demonstration, and I'll do that next week.
Okay.
I'll bring that stuff along to do that demonstration. It's a powerful demonstration on the effect of the sponge
Okay.
and how that works with
Right,
families.
it's a powerful
Yeah,
demonstration.
you've seen it before, yeah. So we're gonna talk some more about the sponge. We got about a minute and a half to go on this one. We need to have people understand, and please contact the show, contact Ernest, contact me if you want to talk about this more or come on the show. We're welcome to have you come on the show.
Yes. Gladly.
You can either talk about stuff that you like about what we've done. You can order the book and buy the book at some place. You can get it.
Yes, you can get it.
You know where to get it. And we can talk to families. I like to talk to families about what's going on in their children, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago too. So with that, we got about 30 seconds left. You want to wind this up with anything, Ernest?
I think we'll talk more about it in the next one. We're finna do another show, which is part of the series, and I think that'll do it.